There's a strange kind of power in silence, a power most people overlook. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't even explain. It just exists, heavy and unmoving, like a door that's quietly closed for good. When you go silent, it hits her differently. It's not like when you argued, or when you tried to fix things, or even when you sent one last long message hoping she'd understand. No. Silence cuts deeper. Because it doesn't ask for attention, it doesn't seek a response, it says everything without saying a word. That's when she starts to feel it. Not when you raised your voice or sent those emotional texts, but when you vanished without drama. Because she expected chaos. She expected you to fold, to chase her, to validate her decision to pull away, but you didn't. You disappeared into your own peace, and that scares her more than any words ever could. Your silence isn't weakness, it's strength, it's control, it's the moment you chose dignity over desperation, and in doing so, you shifted the energy. Now she's left with questions. What happened? Why isn't he fighting for me? Did he stop caring? She's not used to that. She's used to having the upper hand, but silence changes that. It turns the tables. It forces her to confront something she didn't expect. The possibility that she might have lost someone irreplaceable. Because a man who chooses silence instead of chaos, a man who knows his worth and walks away without a word, is not a man to be forgotten, and she knows it. Deep down, even if she'll never admit it. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need to prove anything. You just had to stop talking, and that silence said everything. Your silence does something she never saw coming. It makes her face herself. When you were around, your presence filled the space. Your texts, your calls, your support, your energy. It all acted like a soft cushion, absorbing the weight of her own emotional mess. But when you stopped reaching out, when you stopped showing up, that silence didn't just create distance. It created a mirror, and in that mirror, she starts to see things she didn't want to look at. Not you, but her. Her choices, her words, her reactions. The way she dismissed your feelings. The way she rolled her eyes when you were being vulnerable. The cold responses, the emotional walls. Every little moment that you absorbed without retaliation is now replaying in her mind, louder than ever, because silence has a strange way of amplifying regret. Without your presence to distract her from herself, she starts to hear her own voice in her head, and this time it's not just noise, it's reflection. She realizes how safe you made her feel, how consistent you were, how easy it was to take you for granted, and now that you're no longer available, she's forced to carry the emotional weight you once held, and she's not used to that, because deep down, she knew you cared more than you let on. And losing that kind of care leaves a scar. Your silence isn't just absence, it's a shift in responsibility. She's now left alone with the consequences of her actions, and it's not loud, it's not dramatic. But it's relentless, because nothing haunts the mind like the voice that no longer speaks. And now that you've gone quiet, the only thing left echoing is everything she never said when she had the chance. She thought you'd wait. She thought you'd linger, stuck in her orbit, checking her stories, liking her posts, hoping for a sign, because that's what most men do. They wait around, silently craving closure, secretly wishing for a breadcrumb of attention. But you didn't hover, you didn't beg, you didn't act like her digital shadow. Instead, you did something far more powerful. You vanished with grace, not out of anger, not out of spite, but because you understood something she didn't. Your time, your energy, your presence. These are sacred, and they're not meant to be spent proving your worth to someone who couldn't recognize it the first time. So, when she noticed you weren't watching anymore, that the views had dropped, that the calls had stopped, reality started to hit. You weren't waiting, you were moving, quietly, confidently. While she was still playing games, still testing limits, you were outgrowing the very space she thought she controlled, and that shook her. You see, women don't expect men to walk away without a scene. They expect drama, they expect bitterness, But when you go quiet and disappear into your own evolution, it messes with them, because suddenly you become the mystery, the unanswered question, the one who didn't beg, didn't prove, didn't stay stuck. And now she's wondering if she was wrong, wondering if she lost a man who truly valued her. But more than that, she's realizing something deeper. She never had the power. You gave it to her. And the moment you chose yourself over waiting for her, you took it back. That's when everything changed, not because she left, but because you stopped waiting for her to return. She assumed your silence meant pain, that you were sitting alone, heartbroken, scrolling through old messages, hoping she'd come back, that you were struggling in the quiet, feeling the loss like a wound. But she was wrong, because what she didn't realize is that your silence wasn't just absence. It was transformation. You weren't sitting in the dark, hoping for a light. You were building your own. You weren't broken. You were healing quietly, purposefully. While she was watching for signs of weakness, you were regaining your strength. You didn't post quotes about heartbreak. You didn't jump into distractions. You embraced the solitude. You let the pain sit with you, not to torture yourself, but to understand it. And in doing so, you did what most people run from. You faced the storm head on. And it changed you. It refined you. It grounded you in a way that no validation from her ever could. The man she left behind isn't the man who stands in your silence now, and that terrifies her, because now your silence is no longer fragile. It's no longer sad. It's strong, disciplined, focused. You've become the kind of man who doesn't look back, not out of spite, but because you've simply outgrown the past. She didn't expect that. She thought she'd find you broken, but instead, she's sensing that you've become whole. And now, in the space you used to occupy, she feels something she never imagined, replaceable, because the version of you that once needed her no longer exists. You used your silence to rebuild, to rise, to evolve. And now that she sees it, she finally realizes what she lost. Not just a man who loved her, but a man who chose himself when it mattered most. When you went silent, it wasn't just your voice she missed. It was the little things, the ones she never thought mattered until they stopped. The way you reminded her to eat when she skipped meals. The songs you sent late at night when she couldn't sleep. The calm in your voice when her world felt like it was falling apart. Those weren't grand gestures. They weren't loud, but they were consistent, steady, real. You were the quiet kind of love. The kind that doesn't beg for attention but makes life feel lighter, safer. And now that you're gone, everything feels heavier. She scrolls through her phone, hoping to see your name. She replays old conversations, remembering the comfort they brought. And every silence, every pause, every empty notification, it all hits harder than she expected. Because you weren't just a boyfriend or a flirt or a fling. You were presence. You were grounding. You were peace in the middle of her chaos. And that kind of presence, it doesn't get replaced with a few flirty messages from someone new. Now every new interaction feels a little emptier, because it lacks the warmth, the care, the effortless way you made her feel safe. She might smile for the world, post like she's moved on, but behind that screen she's remembering you. The version of you who never asked for credit, but gave everything anyway. And now that you're silent, she finally understands something she never saw before. Those little things were never little. They were the glue, the anchor, the heartbeat of what you shared. And without them, without you, her world isn't quieter, it's colder. Because when a man like you leaves in silence, what's left behind isn't just emptiness. It's a constant reminder of what used to feel whole.